Welcome to the Sushi Swap MISO AMA, where we bring on projects that have launched through the MISO token factory and give them a platform to reach a larger audience. Today, I'm here with Mark, Aldo, and Intern from Genomes DAO. How are you guys today?
Very well, thank you, Tate. Yes.
You bet.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, we'll get started right away here. I just want to remind everyone that you are welcome to come up onto stage here as we get into the conversation, and of course we do have AMA text questions open as well. If you'd like to bring in any questions that way, we'll monitor that and bring those in as it works for the conversation. But thank you guys for coming on today. Exciting with your launch and everything. And I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to give yourself a bit of an intro, some background, and involvement with Genomes DAO.
Yeah, cool. I can kick us off. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear.
Loud and clear, sounding great.
Good stuff. So my name is Markio on Discord. Myself and Aldo are two of the founders of the Genomes DAO, and we've got with us the best intern of all of the DeFi DAO project interns on the internet. We loving refer to as intern throughout the call. We are Genomes DAO. We've been going for over 3 years now. We went through the Consensus Accelerator back in 2019. We are a DAO for decentralizing genomics and healthcare. We have a couple of tokens, one of which has gone live on MISO today that we're very excited to talk about. It's been a fantastic response so far, and we're happy to dig in. I'm on the science side of things. Aldo's more on the business science of things, and Intern is the happy middle of the Venn diagram. He has the science background, he has the DeFi expertise, and so happy to talk about all these topics.
Awesome. Yeah, Aldo and Intern, if you guys want to give us a little bit, go ahead.
I'm as Mark mentioned, I'm intern. This position was inspired by Sushi Intern, since that entity or it, I don't know if it's a he or she, did a really good job. But my background is, I obviously know about the crypto aspect of things, but I also worked in pharmacogenomics. So pharmacogenomics is a special domain within the genomics field where you kind of look at the interaction between how your body metabolizes certain drugs based on your own genetics. So it's basically tailoring treatments to your genome, basically. I'm definitely newer to the team, but I found this project on Twitter actually, and I thought it was very compelling. It had a really good use case, so I hopped on. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool. That just getting involved like that. That's cool.
And so my name's Aldo, Papaldo on Discord. Part of the founding team together with Mark. I've been building since 2018, as Mark already indicated. All of the above, what Mark said. What I'm most inspired by when it comes to genomes is the way we disrupt things and how we're able to democratize certain things really in such a way so that it's beneficial and advantageous to all, where it currently isn't. And we'll talk about that in further detail. But that I'm not a scientist, I'm not a geneticist, but I am inspired about all types of technology that really democratize the way we use certain things, and in this case, DNA data. And we'll talk about that in further detail. I hope.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. And that might lead us a little bit into what led you to creating this project.
Yeah, so we should probably explain what it is and what it does as well at some point. So my background is science, as already mentioned. I PhD in STEM cells and genomics at Imperial College in London. My master's was human genetics, and out of my PhD, if you got me about 10 years ago, I was very much the open all the things meme. I was everything, particularly in academia. Uh, we want to build on top of the research that's gone before. Academic research works, we get drugs, but how can we move further faster? And for me, coming out of the academic world where you publish papers, I was all about opening up all of these. Everything's becoming more computational. We might probably got some academics on the call. You're making data available, you're making videos available, you're making code available behind the academia. And so if we want to move further, faster, and make things a lot more efficient in drug discovery, and so we can replicate things like the COVID discovery timeline, I was very much about open all of the things. And so I built a platform called Figshare, which it provides data publishing infrastructure for the National Institute of Health, the Department of Homeland Security, academic universities all over the world. And that's where I met Aldo. He was on the business side of things, and I was on the sciencey side of things. And he went on to start his own ed tech company. So we're both in the technology space. But the problem really came about when I realized that genomic data was being shared. There's some types of data that shouldn't be just made available to everybody. And another good example of this I use a lot is, if you're going to publish data, some research on some animals that are going extinct, you don't want to publish their location because the poachers will just go and kill them. So not all data should be made openly available. It needs to be as open as possible, as closed as necessary, is a good line from the European Commission. So we started thinking about, in genomics in particular, how to make, there was somebody who shared their child's DNA sequence and their genome on this platform, Figshare, and I thought, is that a good idea? And those who don't know, I'm just going to spend 20 seconds. I don't mean to patronize anybody, but your genome is the blueprint that makes you you. It's in every one of your cells. I like to call it, for the developers amongst us, I like to call it the source code to creating you. It defines that you have blonde hair and blue eyes or brown hair, but it also defines a lot more about you. And we only sequenced the first genome in 2001, so it's only been 20 years. The first time that happened, it cost over $5 billion, and now it costs about $500. So the price has fallen down for sequencing your genome faster than Moore's law, and it will continue to do so. So it's about to become, or it already is, depending on where you are, a really central part to your healthcare journey. But there's a problem, because those the most extreme version of this is for those who've watched the recent Bond film. They take out whole families by catering crime families by catering drugs to their genomes, because you share a lot of genomes with your family, right? Your genome with your family. You get half from your mom and half from your dad, and so that's. I can go into more about what the problems are and what we're trying to address here, and where blockchain comes in and where encryption comes in. But I'll just pause for a second to see if there's anything you want to ask at this point, Tangle.
Yeah, at this point, I think that's a great place to transition into what you guys have going on, what your project's all about, and start. And then you can identify some of these problems. I'm sure how you guys handle, or how you guys approach your approach to genetics will be. You can address a bunch of those things.
Yeah. So the main premise here is that everybody on this call, there's a whole bunch of you here, and everybody on this call will get your genome sequenced in your lifetime. And so, as I mentioned, there's already areas of research where there's areas of the world where you can be turned down life insurance or health insurance or more severe possibilities. And I can tell you every scare story about what can be done with your genome. So it's your most personally identifiable information. If we can topple governments with a bit of Facebook data, imagine what people can do with your genomic data. And so we've partnered with AMD, the microchip processing company, to create vaults work. They're called. We use their AMD SEVES technology, and we lock your genome up in a vault. The second part to it is the value of that data. And I'll let Aldo go into a little bit on the value of your genomic data in terms of monetary value, because that is the other side to the story.
Yeah, so as Mark said, the first sequencing exercise was done in 2001, and the cost of getting a clinically graded genomic sequence out there was over $1 billion. If you look at the cost of that today, it's around $500. And already the industry leaders on the level of sequencing in the market have announced that in the next few years, that cost will drop to only $100. So what we see here is that the money isn't made from the sequencing. The money is made from reading the data. And this is kind of, whether you like genomes, yes or no, or, that aside, this is something that we want everyone who's listening to be aware of. There is tremendous value to your DNA data. And if you're careless with that, it will be used against you, that first and foremost, but also you will allow other people to make money from it. Now, the most renowned example here are, and you might have heard of them, are direct-to-consumer genetic companies that are in the market. So you might have heard of 23andMe, you might have heard of Ancestry.com. I recently heard of a company who's doing the same, but then for dogs. It's called Embark. So what they all do is they offer to sequence the genome, to sequence your genome, and in exchange for you paying them the money for the sequencing, they give back to you a report. The cost of that, I think right now, if it's on Christmas sale, for instance, it's around $150. So the 23andMe sequences your genome, gives you back a report. You will then find out kind of an ancestry report that you have, for instance, ancestors in Ireland. So it's a nice gadgety gift, so to say. What you do not know that at the same time you've waived the right of ownership to your DNA data to companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com. And what they can do is, after they've given back to you the report, is they can cross-sell that information to pharmaceutical companies and research organizations. This is not fiction. This is already happening full on, and there are many examples, but one that I think is very notable is a deal that 23andMe closed in 2018 of over $300 million, whereby they sold 5 million sequences, exomes. We'll talk a bit more about what the difference is between exomes and genomic sequences, but it's basically the same as DNA data. And they sold those 5 million sequences for $300 million. So that's a lot of money that these companies make off your data. So in this case, it was $60 for each individual that has never seen that money, and also is completely unaware of the fact that their data has been cross-sold. Now, as we said before, we're just at the tip of the iceberg of what we can do with data. So there are more and more genetic companies coming up, more and more pharmaceutical companies who are developing precision medicine for which they need genomic sequences. So the value of your DNA data is only increasing. And if you know that, then our system will allow you to make something that we call passive income. So you put it in the vault, and then once it is in the vault, we can invite research organizations or pharmaceutical companies to query your data, but they would only query that specific part that speaks to the specific area they're looking for. So if we're talking, for instance, of whether you're susceptible to heart disease, we will open that part of the vault that speaks to heart disease, so they can query that specific part. We don't give away all the data, only that specific part, and we would only do so after you have given explicit information to open that part of the vault. So you will be notified, and after that, you will also receive money.
All right. Got yeah, and just to
Yeah.
touch on that, then every time that there is a request made for your data or for the potential for your data, you get notified and are able to either accept or deny in that sense.
It's 100% correct. Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, intern. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'll just say a few things. So someone came into our Discord yesterday and was like, "Hey, this project has like WorldCoin vibes. Like this is weird," and I needed to correct them because once your DNA is in these AMD vaults, it's basically like a Ledger wallet or a MetaMask. So Genomes DAO has absolutely no access to that. We only broker the access if you want to allow access, right? And then that access for anyone querying your vault, that's paid in Gene token, but we'll go into that later. The other thing is too, like I don't think I know like 23andMe and Ancestry, like they're having their Christmas sales and everything. They're gonna, maybe someone in this call might get one of those tests for their relatives or something, as a Christmas gift. But what people really don't understand is they're like rugging themselves. Like they're paying these companies, right, for this little test. They're like, oh, here's where your grandpa came from, right? Like he's Polish or something. And then what they do is they take that data and they sell it to the highest bidder. Like you're paying someone to like rug you. Like people just don't understand that, and it's quite bad. And the other thing too is that 23andMe and Ancestry, they're not sequencing your whole genome. They're sequencing something called your exome, which is around 1 to 2% of your genome. Um, and historically we used to say, oh no, we only need the exome data. Like that's the most important. But as we're learning more, the rest of the genome is becoming increasingly important and valuable. And just to kind of talk like numbers here. Um, so Blackstone is the biggest private equity company in the world. I think they have over like 300 billion in assets under management, something like that. But they paid 4.7 billion dollars for Ancestry's genomic database. And you have to think, why do a bunch of Wall Street bankers, why are they so interested in where your great grandpa came from? So that's like that. I think just a lot of folks just don't understand that the data, your genomic data, is becoming so valuable. And if like a company like Facebook or Instagram or something, like their incentives are to increase stock price, right? Their incentives aren't to like keep your data safe. And just for example, like the author of the book Sapiens, I don't know if anyone's ever read that. He said that Instagram and Facebook, they know more about you than you know about yourself. Like they know just the way you're browsing on their platform, what your sexual orientation is before maybe even you do. And then what gets scary is that if you match that behavioral data with your genomic data, you can get some really dystopian scenarios. So the point is here, I mean, gene token or not, you got to be really, really careful with that data. It's going to become really, really important. Um,
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, not to get too Orwellian or anything, but yeah, yeah.
Hey Tangle, just talking about that, not to get too Orwellian, and because we don't want to come across like too far down that line, but I tweeted this out on at Genomes.io, the Genomes DAO Twitter the other day. We get stories every day. There's a company in the UK where I am that's now being investigated because they're doing COVID tests. Right, that's what they're doing. They're doing COVID tests, and they're selling the DNA data that they get from the COVID tests. Sounds Orwellian.
Oh boy.
I'll
Oh boy.
retweet out the link. It's crazy.
Wow. Wow. Well, okay, so maybe this will tie nicely into like how you guys ensure and protect users' privacy. How do you guys work with that?
So, as I said, we went through the consensus incubator in 2019, and it was good fun. We Ether cards were on there with us, and we've met the MetaMask folks and the Dharma folks and all of these cool companies way back when. And Consensus advised us to get, because it's the middle of the Venn diagram of encryption, genomics, and blockchain. They said make sure you get your tech stack and your security started first before you put in any of the tokenomics. The most important thing here is security. So you can get your genome sequence through us. You get a box, you swab your cheek, you send it away. The sequence is then uploaded into a vault. That vault we can't access. So everybody who gets their genome sequence and put in one of these vaults, the only way to access that is through a granting access through an authenticator wallet, which is live on the App Store, which is basically a blockchain wallet. It's got a seed phrase, things like this. Comes with the usual risks: lose your seed phrase, lose access to your genome. But it's that idea, not your keys, not your coins, not your keys, not your data. And so we partnered with AMD, as I mentioned, to make use of their SEVES technology, which is these encrypted vaults. And we've set it up so you can run your ancestry on it, right? You can you go to the web app, you click on the ancestry button, you get a notification on your phone, and it says Mark is trying to access your ancestry report. Do you want to grant access, or do you not want to not grant access? And so that's the basic model that scales up really well, because there's this idea that Apple says you're going to have your genome in your phone, and I think their idea was that you're just going to. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something. Sorry, Tang. Apple says you're going to have your genome in your phone, and the reality of it is you shouldn't have your genome in your phone. I'm sure it can take the 100 gigabyte files now, but you should have it. You should have access to your vault so that you can query it. So if you can go into the various different use cases of, if you personally want to know more about your ancestry, or whether the direct to consumer carrier status, those kind of things, whether you are a carrier for a disease, you can do that through the platform, but you have to authenticate it to run that query within your vault and bring out the results. Where that has a lot of applications going forward is, we all process drugs at different speeds. I think Intern can talk a bit more about that with his background in the pharmaco space.
Yeah. So I'll give a little bit of background. So I actually worked at I don't want to completely dox myself, but I worked at one of these companies, one of these really big companies in the genomic space. And I worked there. When I worked there, I was an intern there too, and I was like really early to the company and when it was forming. But basically, in pharmacogenomics, and basically this goes to the question, one, why would you want your whole genome, your 100 gig file on your phone? And then two, why would you want to query it? And the simple answer to that is that there's information in your genome that can and should inform how you live your life a little bit. So it may tell you, you have this gene, you have an increased risk of maybe breast cancer. I think there's a recent article I saw that if you're of Southeast Asian descent and you have this gene and this variant of a certain gene, you'll have a very, very severe reaction to COVID, whereas someone who has maybe another variant might not. So there's a bunch of different reasons why you'd want to, have access to your DNA, your whole genome. So I'll give like one example. So when I worked at these companies, when there was like a slow day in the lab, some of the interns would just go into the lab and say, "Hey, can we throw our DNA on the sequence machines and then run it through the algorithms?" And funny story about me is that my whole life, I always thought that I was extremely sensitive to caffeine, right? So I would rarely ever drink like a coffee or even like a Coca-Cola. If I have a Coca-Cola too late at night, I'd be like, oh, I can't have this. I'll stay awake all night. And when I did that, right, one day we went there and we, ran all our DNA. through the algorithms and sequencers and stuff, I found out that the gene that's responsible for metabolizing stimulants, right? CYP1A2, I believe. I think so. Or maybe CYP2D6. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But basically, that gene, I I was actually an ultra rapid metabolizer for it. So that means that my body burns through like stimulants like caffeine, Red Bull, like Adderall, cocaine. Like my body burns through that like crazy. But my whole life, I thought in my head it was probably like a placebo effect that, oh, I can't.
Oh, I think we lost you, intern.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
saying your whole
So
life you learned that. Yeah, you can.
yeah, my whole.
Oh, it doesn't want you to. Oh, can everybody else still hear me, or are we losing him?
So sorry.
In and out for a second here, intern.
Yeah.
Oh,
One
okay.
last try.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now. Here, must just be an internet connection. But yeah, so you were saying, yeah,
Okay.
your whole life you've.
Yeah,
Just finish
my
up that
whole
last
life I
thought. Yeah.
lived, I can't have coffee. Like I should be very careful about any like caffeine. But my genome said the exact opposite. So it's these little things, right? That as we learn more and more, you'll probably like maybe 5 years from now, when maybe 5 to 6 years from now, everyone in this room will probably have their genome on their phone. And then when they go to the doctor, your doctor, and you'll be sitting there and like, oh, let's query this part of your genome, let's see what it says, and then we'll give you recommendations on what you should do. So, and when you think of it like that, like do we have any Web3 healthcare platforms that allows you to safely and privately store your genome and make sure that if you do want to maybe make passive income from it, then you can in a safe and secure way. But you can also query it yourself. I mean, imagine if 23andMe and Ancestry came up with something like this, like, hey, store your entire genome with us, and then we'll also sell your data and like, it just doesn't make sense. So I think that's also like one aspect of the project is just having the Web3 infrastructure for some of these other uses, like maybe like outside of like DeFi and things like this, but transitioning into like health and stuff. So
All right, hold on a sec here. We've got some technical issues coming on. Yeah, I think a lot of people in the audience can't hear right now. We just had a Discord bug. Zap, can we hear you?
oh,
Zap.
Anyone hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Is everybody on? We're just gonna take a minute here.
That is interesting. Okay.
There we go. Everybody, it's looking like we're getting some. Yep, we're seeing a lot of response here from AMA text questions that everybody can hear us now.
I can't hear Tangle if he's talking.
Yeah, I am. Everybody's here. Okay.
I can hear you, Tangle.
All right.
I can hear Zap.
I can hear both of you.
Oh,
Yes.
a couple people saying just Tangle, no
Yeah,
audio.
you guys might have to like go back to the audience and come back here or something maybe.
Let's maybe try that. So I see some people can't hear me. Let's actually, Zap, if you stay up here, if you can hear. Oh boy, I don't want to end this stage. Hang on a second, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. Just hold on a second. Discord, and it's madness. So. Okay, can you guys, is everyone hearing me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you.
So everybody else hears, we got a lot of yeses and yeps, and can everybody else hear the Genomes team?
Not yet.
Okay, so
Oh,
maybe Genomes team, if you don't mind, just hop off to go back to the audience, and then come back up. Hit the hand button. So I'll just move you
Alright.
guys to the audience, and then we'll move you back up. Okay. All right. Hopefully this gets everything sorted. Aldo, Mark.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, back on stage.
All right. How's that working for everyone? Yes. Yep. All right. Okay. So we'll just we'll get intern back up here. We'll let that finish. Sorry everyone for the technical difficulties there. Yeah, Discord not being awesome for whatever reason. This is yeah, I've had a couple issues lately. It's been rock solid for a long time, but
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. I'm not gonna lie.
all
Thank you,
right.
Zach, for your help.
There we go. Yeah, thanks, Zap. Yeah, if we have issues like that again, I may call on yeah here. But yeah, I guess as we are hitting 400, maybe it's an issue. Okay, let's carry on here. Oh, I love that GIF. We'll do it live.
I'm reading a lot of the questions. They're very interesting. Sorry,
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Let's
Yes.
we can head back up to there in a second. Yeah, sorry to intern. We'll let you finish up what you were saying there about yeah, you found out a lot of things about yourself.
I don't exactly remember where I was, what I was
I
saying.
think yeah,
But basically, like,
just the consensus on it being how caffeine affected you, and you didn't realize it, until you or how you didn't realize the effect it really had on you until you actually had your genome sequenced.
Yeah. So, and I think, as people, right, as most people on this call will likely have their genome on their phone, you'll have more stories like this where you'll be sitting with your doctor and be like, okay, let's query this part of my genome or this one, and it'll just inform how you live your life, right? So, and going to the project, right? There's right now not really, like, sushi and like Uniswap, things like that. That's like infrastructure, right, for Web3. That's what I consider. I consider it infrastructure for Web3, but there's really not any in Web3 infrastructure for your healthcare data. So that's kind of what Genomes DAO is.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, when we get to this Web3 idea and what that brings.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, I guess like just touching maybe on some of the questions from AMA text questions there. If you guys want to go back, if you've been reading through there, we can do that. And if anybody has questions as well, wants to come up on stage, please raise your hand and we'll get you up here and you can ask that way too. But yeah, let's go back to some of those questions that you guys were looking at.
Sure, I'm happy to look at some of them. There are some questions around. Sorry, there's lots of yes and no. Whether you can hear us yes or no. So I'm just scrolling up. I think some questions around 23andMe and Ancestry.com, and how they deal with the data. So there we have here a question around 23andMe and the $300 million deal that was supposedly an investment and not a revenue deal. Okay, well, it is what it is, but this is not the only example of such companies. We've got a long list going from December 2012 to August 2020 of in the hundreds of millions, whereby these types of companies have cross-sold genetic data to the pharmaceutical industry. I'm just using this one as an example.
I think I can touch on a couple of these as well, Aldo.
Sure.
Just
Yeah,
in
go ahead.
terms of, so there's also this idea of, if I'm not doing anything wrong, then I've got nothing to worry about, right? And that's true as long as it's true. The interesting thing about, as well as selling the data, right? If you're talking about selling the data, you're talking about what we're trying to solve is making it equitable. So if your data is being sold, you get paid. You can decide to sell your data and you can get paid. And that has some really interesting concepts in terms of the wider global picture, where 96% of the publicly available genomes are North American or Western European, so largely white. And there are obviously regional variances in genomes that means that the global south is not getting the same level of healthcare or drugs designed for healthcare. The other thing is that, it's not just selling your data. The US government has had several requests to companies to ask for genomic data, right? And you can say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what's the problem there? But again, it's a question of should they be able to do that? And great thing about what the Web3 technologies that we've been talking about is that we can't access your data, right? So there's no way if there was an aggressive 51% takeover of the DAO and they said, now we have all of your data. Cool, you can't access it. It's in vaults. You still need the individual to grant you consent using the wallet. So I think that's an interesting part of it. It's also this idea of if we're having decentralized, distributed um, kind of systems for your healthcare data, then you can replicate a lot of other things. I think one of the interesting things with this idea of decision making on granting access to your data is it also opens up a whole new platform for lowering cost of goods for other systems that are going on there. So just like we have the App Store for apps, um, there's no reason why we, as if everybody's got their genome in a vault, people who are genomics researchers can't find out something cool about your genome, write a cool little app on top of it, and monetize it, right? And make money for their intellectual property in the same way that you make money for apps on the App Store. It's just these apps are not possible at the moment because they have to query your genome. And where's everybody's genomes? If you're born with a rare disease in North America, the insurance companies will sequence your genome because it is 19 times cheaper for treatment to diagnose using your genome. So what happens to that data, right? If you can have it that we just set the standard to be everybody is going to get their genome sequenced and everybody has it inside of a vault. That's the start point. And then the technologies, the DeFi, the multi-sig setups means that there is a long way to go in terms of what is potentially doable using these workflows. And I can talk to a few specific examples of them we're already working with. But again, I'll pause here for breath.
All good. All good. Yeah, no, we were covering a lot of good stuff here in regards to the monetization of the genome, and I guess just giving that power back to the users where it should be versus giving up that to a to companies and whatnot. Maybe this is a good time to start diving into the gene token. I see we've got some chatter around that in the AMA text questions. And again, if anybody does want to come up and ask a question on stage, please raise your hand and we'll get you up here. But yeah, let's maybe dive into the gene token a little bit, how it works, and maybe some of the questions around it as well.
Us off with, as I say, when we went through consensus in 2019, we knew we wanted to tokenize for a variety of reasons. But yeah, as I mentioned, we were hanging out with the Dharma gang who.
Oh no, did we lose Mark again? Are we
shortly? I'll just start and Mark can come in later. So
Hello?
well, hold on, everybody. Wow, Discord really blowing it. All right, Zap.
I can hear you, but
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
Oh man, not again.
yeah, I can hear you. Choo.
Okay, nobody can. All right.
Oh,
Let's do the same thing. We'll just do it real quick.
Sven brings back. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, there. And now. Okay. Let's get everybody back. Oops. Get everybody back up here again. All right. Intern. Mark.
what's up?
And how we doing now here? We all groovy again? And we're just missing
I think
Aldo.
so.
Just missing Aldo. Mark, you were just started. You just started what you were. What you were saying here about the token and consensus, and noting that you wanted to tokenize. I'll let you carry on from there. All right, thanks, Zap, for coming up and.
Thank you. Yeah, back in 2019, when we went through the consensus town accelerator, we wanted to tokenize the um, distribution of funds in order to get paid to brokerage this pharmaceutical query of your data, right? So the idea was that um, you get a notification on your phone saying GlaxoSmithKline would like to know if you express one of the 3 genes that are associated with long COVID, and they'll pay you $100 for it in gene token. Do you want to accept that? Yes or no? Yes, it runs the query, anonymously sends them a result. No, it does nothing, right? But it never reveals the whole genome. It only does a little thing. And so because of this, the authenticator, this repeat consent authenticator that doesn't exist anywhere else, is also a wallet, so it can hold tokens, things like this. The second interesting thing about it is that DeFi has exploded since then, and we now have more kind of this idea of passive income on your data is now available to be, amplified on steroids for the DeFi fans out there. And so we have 2 tokens, Gene token and Gnome token. Gene and Gnome, Genome, get. And the Gene token is a utility token. It's deflationary. Um, we broker the Gene token to the pharmaceutical companies so they buy it, reserving a chunk of that so that research organizations, rare disease charities can basically buy queries. And because it's deflationary, the value of their queries, if they buy in early, they'll get more bang for their buck over time. The governance token Gnome is only available from staking Gene. So if you want to be a part of the can you hear me, Tangle? All
Yeah,
okay?
we still got you. You bet.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
If you want to be a part of the Genomes DAO, you can buy Gene, stake the Gene, and earn Gnome. So then you're part of the ownership of the DAO as well. And so the Gene token we are giving away. Sorry, no, we're not giving away. There are a few competitions in our Discord where we're giving away Gene token, but we went live on MISO this morning in the UK about 4 hours ago. We are raising up to 999 Ethereum for 30% of the total Gene token. So that means a circulating supply at launch of, well, based on the ETH price this morning, under $5 million. We've got about 150 ETH of that in the first couple of hours, which is fantastic. So if you have invested, thank you so much for that. Obviously, for those who are familiar with the MISO sale, when that closes and is finalized, we will release the tokens and also release the staking environment, so you can stake Gene in ETH or Gnome in ETH and earn the alternative one as well. So the idea, just to sum up that, is you get your genome sequence, you lock it in a vault, you accept queries or you don't accept queries on your genome. If you do, you get paid in Gene. You can then stake that and earn extra rewards. You're then going to be able to buy another kit with your Gene, so you can gift it to your friends, your relatives. They can start earning passive income for life, things like this. So that's the general start point of the tokenomics.
Got it.
Yeah, and I'll
Go
just
ahead.
add a small thing. Like, as I mentioned before, like Blackstone, they paid like $4 billion for Ancestry's genomic data set, and you can, like, at least I think that in the future, say like Pfizer, to get some sort of regulatory or drug approval, they need genomics data sets from like African American men age 55, 65, where they have like hypertension, diabetes, and maybe have had one heart attack or something. They will pay a lot of money for that data to get what they need because there's so much money on the line for them. So I think if there, people ask, is there a market for this? There's definitely a market for this. And you can see by 23andMe and Ancestry already selling your data away without your consent. Like the thing is, when you go and sign up for these things, they make you say, oh yes, do you agree to the terms and conditions? No one's actually reading the legal jargon, but they're just basically giving their data away.
Right. Right.
I just wanted to add, it's also one of the questions in the AMA around the ethics of all of it and what the government is doing. And indeed, it's true. Someone asked whether governments are not stepping up to do more to defend privacy. of users waiving their DNA data. There are indeed some initiatives, but it's not enough for kind of how extremely people are being violated and kind of how their DNA data is being used. So that is kind of almost like a slow burn way of trying to deal with the matter, waking up to something like, oh, this is indeed not the way that we should do it. We might do something differently. We might vote or kind of, or we might not. That's then also, I think, in the United States, dependent state per state. So there's still lots of education and lots of awareness to be grown and education to be done before we're at that stage that you as an individual are completely protected. The last thing that I would say is that in Western Europe and Northern America, when it comes to sequencing your genome, things are far more evolved than, for instance, in Eastern Africa or in East Asia. So we are quite ambitious, and we're not only talking these territories. We're talking, of course, everyone in the world should get their sequence on genomes.io ideally. And in those regions and those countries, things are very much still in their infancy when it comes to understanding genetic data and how to use those genetic data to an optimal extent for the development of precision medicine. So it's not only the focus on Western Europe and Northern America, where currently I think 80 to 90% of the activity is going. It's going to grow quickly, and it's going to grow all over the globe, as Mark indicated earlier.
If I could just touch on a few things to kind of sum a few things up that we're talking about here. So talking about governments, in the UK, you have the 100,000 Genomes Project. That is a project that takes people's genomes and puts them on the internet for anyone to consume, right, in an S3 bucket. They're now upgraded to the 5 million genome project. That's like basically 1 in 10 people in the UK is going to be openly available on this platform. I personally think that's a bad idea, a very bad idea, right? But if you look, we ourselves are talking to other organizations, so working with the Armenian Genome Project, who have people from Armenia. Every country has a genome project, by the way, pretty much. People from Armenia have Mediterranean familial disease is a big problem there. And so they want to understand more about that. And so they want to be able to have this repeat consent of their constituents. And another example where we're working is the National Indigenous Genomics Centre in Australia, where you have the indigenous people of Australia who've been exploited again and again and again, missing out on healthcare opportunities because they don't trust their government. So we're working with them. And this is where I'm saying we're starting with the individual at the most private level, but there's obviously got to be a bit of education here. And so one of the things we're doing is they can have a tribal leader authenticate on behalf of those the people in their tribe, someone they trust who is educated in the space, so they can make decisions on behalf of them. One of their team can make decision on behalf of them, and that's available because of the technology that blockchain supports, right? And so both of those projects have 2,000 genomes. The last thing I'll say just here is that our initial target is to get 10,000 genomes in vaults. The reason behind that is the big pharmaceutical companies we spoke to said they'd be interested in the data at 10,000 genomes. Obviously, as Intern mentioned, if you feel you may not have won the genetic lottery because you have some genetic conditions, you may actually win the genetic lottery because your data is more valuable in monetary terms. And so we are working with those organizations. The aim is 10,000 genomes. The other thing that we have going on is we have, before the end of this year, we have genomic NFT packages that will come with a genomic sequence that you can, gift or what have you. Obviously, some artwork in some beautiful cats that are because cats have really cool genomes, by the way. There is a naming competition for those for the NFT project, and obviously 10,000 NFTs is pretty much the standard. So 10,000 genomes at 0.1 ETH, you get a genome sequence, you get a NFT, and you get randomly dropped gene or gnome token as well in there as well. So we're very excited about that project that's coming at the end of the year. So this is why we're trying to grow the DAO and get expertise in all of these areas. So if you are interested in joining a DAO, if you are interested in some of these areas of DeFi or NFTs or genomics or encryption, please join our Discord.
Yeah, there you go. Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, 10,000 people to get in, 10,000 genomes. So
A hell of a coincidence, right? You know, sometimes we're living in a simulation when you're thinking about what is the. I know we'll get people say, "Oh, 10,000, I'm bored of that number now," you know, but it is the target for vaults that we already knew about for 2 years.
Cool. All right, we've got a couple of hands up right now. Jono 1, and then we'll get to Jacob here shortly after. Jono, there you go. Can we hear you? Just barely. Try speak. Yeah, I think we got you there.
So it looks like for your project to succeed, you need to have a lot of people with their DNA sequenced, right?
Yeah.
How do you make that happen?
So
are you going to incentivize people with gene tokens to get their DNA sequenced?
Well, there's a few cool things, right? Because the $500 that it costs to get your genome sequenced at the moment, that is prohibitive to a lot of people, right? And so we're really interested in ways in which we can bring that down. And so we've been chatting to the folks at Alchemix about using a portion of our, we haven't posted about this. I've got a blog post ready to go. I'm just waiting for approval of a quote from Scoopy Trooples. But this idea that you can use DeFi technology, so you can do things like, if we take, the proposal is that if we hit our target of 999 Ethereum on the MISO raise, then we'll put 10% of that into a self-repaying loan and then use that money to pay for kits. And then the DAO decides where that goes, right? Who gets those kits and who gets these kits for free. The other thing is that the price is dropping to $100 per genome, so we can do a lot more of it. We'd love someone to come and work with us and build a lock 1 Ethereum for 6 months, and we'll send you a genome kit right now, right? And we'll use DeFi strategies to pay that off. But the reality of it is that 1.2 billion people will have their genome sequenced by 2025. That's the projections, right? Because governments are doing it. And we're not saying that we don't want to work with those governments. We're saying we want to just work with them in a way that's equitable so people are in control of their genomes.
Why would I pay anything to have my genome sequenced if I'm not interested in knowing who my ancestors are?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, so I'll just answer this. So there's different things that we'll start learning more and more as the science improves. We'll start learning more and more about what your specific genome says. So for example, if you I think in the UK, the health minister is recommending that all babies start getting their genome sequenced. And the reason why you'd want to do this, and you'd want to do it securely and privately, kind of like a social security number, maybe in the US, is that it'll inform how you'll live your life. If you knew that you had a very, very high risk for breast cancer, you would take steps to avoid getting that cancer, and you can take preventative steps. Another thing, like I mentioned the COVID thing, right? If there's a gene, which I think that article said, that said, hey, you will get a very, very severe reaction to COVID if you catch it. So just be very, very careful. Then you would want to know that. You wouldn't want to just be in the dark. And to go to your point, you said the cost of whole genome sequencing, right? The whole genome, not the exome, which is 1 to 2%. That's going down each year. So yeah, maybe right now it's $500 to $400. Maybe end of next year, maybe 2023, it's going to be like $100. And then after that, where it gets really, really interesting is when it's zero cost whole genome sequencing, and that's going to happen. And that's how you're going to get 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion people with their genomes in vaults. And eventually everyone's going to just start querying these every single day. On a ZK rollup, it's just query, because you're going to want to go and look into your genome and see what it says. So
And what I just wanted to add to that is if you're not interested in doing it, someone else is, right? So you're up against people knowing that there's value to your data and saying, well, you're not interested. Well, you don't have to pay for it. Let me take care of it for you, but then sells everything of all that information to other people. So in a way, it's also protecting your data because you don't want someone else to make that decision for you and just have your data exposed to just the highest bidder, as intern said earlier.
I think
So
I
those are basically the decisions you make.
just to finish off, I want to say thank you very much, Jono, for the question, because it's a really good one, right? We know it's a complex subject and we know it's new to a lot of people. I think the way I think about it is like I don't know what my blood type is, right? I've never bothered to learn. I've had blood tests before, and probably everyone on this call has had a blood test for some reason, right? So it's not a question of I want to know, it's a question of it just comes up in my life at some point, right? And so using some of these examples in the future, you're going to go, hopefully you won't be too ill in your life, but at some point you're going to go and they say, okay, we're going to give you this drug. And the way that you get a drug at the moment is a bell curve, right? It's the middle of the beautiful meme on the internet. So if you are the average Joe, you will get the middle dose. That is perfect for you. But everyone gets the middle dose, regardless of where you sit on this. So in the future, you'll go to the doctors and they'll say, okay, we're going to give you this drug. Just run this query on your genome. Okay. Access. Okay. Yeah, we're going to give you this dosage as opposed to that dosage. And that's how it's going to just come into your life.
So if state-funded healthcare systems are paying for the sequencing of your DNA as a health benefit, wouldn't they have some kind of proprietary right to the genomic data that's harvested?
no,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Sorry, go ahead, Inter.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if your government is offering you to sequence your genome, I think the model should be is that okay, you're like for example in the US, right? I walked in and I was able to get like a vaccine, right, for COVID, and they gave that for free. They provided that for free. So I'm sure in the future they will be providing, right. And the other reason you'd want to know this too is because it saves on healthcare costs, right? But like I said, you'd want to go in and then um, well, when they do provide it, you would want a safe place to put that genome. You wouldn't want that in like the government database. Okay, I would not want my genome in the US government database. That would be very bad. But I think for Genomes DAO, this offers a solution where you can have your genome sequence, you can get all the benefits of having your genome sequence, like Mark mentioned, like for pharmacogenomics or other health insights, but that genome stays private. That no one can access that. Even for you, once you get it, sequenced, and you're like, you know what, I don't want anyone to look at it. I don't want anyone. Maybe I want to just look and see if I have an increased risk for this cancer, and then after that, close it. No one look at it forever. I don't want passive income, and I think this allows for that.
Just a quick question too. Who are your sequencing providers? If somebody was curious and they wanted to look into them.
So one of the things that we're trying there's a few different areas of the company that we can, or the organization that we can focus on growing. Is it that we focus on, global business development? So if you're a business developer in person or a project manager in China, could you help us out and join that? So one of the areas that people talk about as a focus of the DAO is making sure that the auditability of the sequencer into the vault is good. And so there's a couple of ways we can do that. We can either bring it all in-house. A genomic sequencing machine costs $1 million. The Novosec is the latest one from Illumina. And we could do that. One of our lead developers really wants to take the Illumina machines and put on, instead of using Windows XP, which they use at the moment, a open source operating system that has trustability and provability within it. So you can say that the genome was sequenced and that it was dropped in a vault. Of course, starting where we were as a startup, we couldn't do that. So there are billion-dollar genomic sequencing companies out there. We have signed agreements with 4 of them, but for the start point, we were only using one of them, which is called Nebula Genomics, because their focus is on privacy. And so we audit their audit trails. But it's a really good question. If you have an opinion on it, please come and I think the ideal situation would be to bring it all in-house. It's a DAO. It's an open conversation.
Cool. John, I hope that kind of covered a few things for you. We've got a couple other hands up, so I'll bring up Jacob here as well.
Jono, feel free to jump in the Discord and ask more questions anytime as well.
Awesome. Jacob, have you got something for us?
Hey guys, thanks for bringing me up.
You bet.
Apologies, I joined a little bit late, but this has been incredibly interesting to hear about, and something that I think I would definitely want to be a part of, if not now, in the near future. But it sounds like there's kind of a bunch of different offerings. So, you know, on your site, you could have your DNA sequenced right now for that $500 or 500 pounds. You know, you can buy into the token in the initial offering, or you can kind of wait for that 10,000 NFT collection. Is that correct on kind of all the things that are going on currently?
100%. Some PFP.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd just love to hear kind of, I guess, what are the different benefits for each, or, you know, why would I want to buy into the token now if I could wait to get the NFT later and potentially get more benefits and get airdrop that? Or, you know, does that have any benefits to getting my DNA sequence then? Or what are your different customers you're appealing to, and why would they, you know, jump on the different offerings?
That's a great question. So I think the way I would describe it is, if you are just looking and getting your genome sequence and earning passive income, the 2 ways to do it are either buy Gene and buy your kit using Gene in the not too distant future, and then it's all crypto based. That's one of the things we're building out. Or wait for the NFT project that should be coming in December. So they're your 2 options if you want to get involved on that level. If you want to be more involved with the DAO and then vote for, you know, the percentage of revenue distribution for GNOME DAO ownership and holders and things like that, then I'd say buy the Gene token and stake it and start earning GNOME that way as well. So there's a couple of different journeys in, depending on what you're looking to get out of it, really.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then if we wanted to read up more on the NFT project, do you have links or information there?
Yeah, we'll share our Medium and the details on there. We just posted about it the other day. If you go to discord.gg/genomes, that's our Discord, and you'll find lots of details in there. The naming process. The original name for the project was called The Cat, and now we have, because cats have cool genomes, we don't. There's really cool stuff you can do with NFTs in your genome, by the way. The fact that your hair is a certain color is a phenotypic trait, right? CryptoKitties had DNA that they merged with each other, right? The idea that you can use CRISPR and mutate your DNA. So there's really cool things in terms of where generative NFTs can go in this space, because I think, it could be that you take control of the NFT and we query it against your genome, and it hashes it and mutates it in some way, shape, or form without disclosing any of your genomic information, because that's what we're keeping most private. I think there's really cool things that could be happening there. We'd love to think along. So if anyone has, as I say, everyone has better ideas than we do. If you go and look at the competition for the NFT naming system, you'll see some genius in there. So if you have some good ideas, if you'd like to get involved with that, we'd love to hire you.
Okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. And I'm getting, a ton of different ideas on how you could kind of, I don't know, be like the loot for genomes and partner with a bunch of projects that way. So is that something that you as a team would go out and kind of accept or search out for these partnerships, or is that something that the DAO would handle ultimately?
So it's a good point at it right now because there's like 15 of us, and intern is a good example of someone who's joined recently as part of the DAO, right? And so if you have experience in that, come to us and we'll open it up. And we, as I say, we are hiring. If you are a bioinformatician, if you know about NFTs, if you know about AMD or Intel SGX and encryption, if you know about DeFi, there's some really cool stuff we can be doing. So please get involved, and we'd love to get you on board.
Awesome, that sounds great. And it's just best to reach out to you via Discord or?
Yeah, jump in the Discord.
Yeah,
I'm
hop in
Markio
the
on Discord.
Yeah, sweet.
Sorry, yeah. Jump in the Discord, it sounds like.
Yeah. Hop in the Discord. You'll see either like Genomes DAO intern or Markio or Aldo. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate answering questions, and yeah, I'll let someone else talk now.
Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it, Jacob. I do see one more request to speak here as well from F.
Meanwhile, intern and I are trying to answer AMA text questions also in writing. There's a question about AMD
Yep.
SEVES technology. We will share the link to their technology directly, so you can have a look at their page, to develop a further understanding about that. So I'm looking for that link and we'll share it. And keep them coming, the questions. We're trying to answer all of them. And if we don't get to answer them, as Markio and intern said, please join us in the Discord where you can ask it again, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. F2021, have you got something for us?
Hey guys, yeah, thanks a lot. Name is Phil.
Hey, Phil.
Great job so far. This is a very exciting project, and Pat, I think you just said that you were going to answer this in written, but it'd be extremely helpful to hear from you a little bit. If you can walk us through, how the process works for, a big pharma wanting to query a sample from your user base. How at what point do they interact with the blockchain versus the AMD server? How does that link work? So if you can just walk us through a step-by-step process, I think it'd be very helpful just to understand, because I've had a hard time understanding that specific point.
So as mentioned, there's a few different parts and it's all quite complex. So it's been quite a hard task to get the middle of that Venn diagram, as I say, of the encryption and also the genomics expertise and also the DeFi stuff as well. So the workflow is that if a research organization, they get funding for genomic information, things like this, wants to query genomes, and they can buy a gene token. We'll brokerage that with them if you want to be involved in our brokerage of the gene token to pharmaceutical companies. If you've got connections there, please let us know. And so they will then, there's open APIs. There's also an organizational platform. And so the organizational platform allows you to either upload genomes that you already have. So if you're a rare disease charity, you can upload all of the genomes that you already have. And then it allows you to create your own queries. So a query is basically asking questions at different points along the genome. So that's all set up. It's approved. We've been over to the Turing Center in London, where they're working on how much is too much information to give away at one point from querying a genome. So it might need to be separated up into multiple questions. Then they say, okay, we're prepared to offer this price for this question. And if there's some demographic data, they can query it on a demographic data as well. So it goes out, and so you get, if you are one of the people, if they want to send it to everyone, if they've got okay, we want to test out our new heart drug in sub-Saharan Africa, but we know that this particular gene mutation is bad, and we don't know what percentage of sub-Saharan Africans have this mutation because all of the genomes, Western European or North American, they can do two things. They can do a clinical trial, which will cost them $20 million minimum, or they can say, hey, we'll give everybody we'll ask the question of everybody in the sub-Saharan African region, hey, we'll give you $100 if we can see if you've got this gene mutation. Do you want to accept it, yes or no? So you've got a mobile authenticator wallet, which is a blockchain wallet, has the keys that grants access to the AMD vault. What happens is the query goes into the vault, executes, and then comes out. So then what we are left with is a auditable trait that somebody asked the question, there's a proof of computation, and the logs are stored on the blockchain. Do not put any of the DNA on the blockchain or anything like that. And obviously the transfer of currency in the form of gene tokens is done through the blockchain as well, and they are stored in your wallet.
So that means that basically the customer, the pharma, doesn't actually take that snippet of gene information that they're looking for, right?
Say that again, sorry, Phil.
Yes, sorry. So if you have, this pharma company wanting to check out this sub-Saharan Africa sample, and they pay for, a specific part of the genome of this sample, and therefore they access it through the blockchain provides authorization for them to access the vault, and therefore you have an audit, a log of the access that they have, and then they pay for it. Now, because they pay for it, what do they actually pay for? Do they actually pay for owning that piece of information, or they don't actually get any ownership of that specific data that they're accessing?
What they will get back is a result of a computational query. So on a very, very simplistic thing, if it's, hey, intern, well, they don't know it's intern. Hey, person X, I want to ask this question of your genome. Do you express this gene? Yes or no? They get back the yes. The 1,000 people you asked, 999 had yes, reported yes, and you can see that it is proof that a person has approved it and it has the consent, and you can put it in an academic paper. The next step for that, of course, but they never get access to the genomes. The next step of that, of course, is we're starting with the most restrictive use cases, because we know that we don't want to hinder any research progress that's being done, right? So the next step up there is, how can we take these pipelines and use things like homomorphic encryption and things like this. There's a version called Bloom that seems to be just about fast enough to work with now. Full homomorphic encryption is just too slow at the moment. Can we start doing things like GWAS studies, genome-wide association studies, across groups of people using the pipes that we have set up without them ever having access to the genome, downloading the genome and storing it on their files? They have results of queries. That's all they ever get.
Okay. Fair enough, because then the question was, if they keep on querying about the same sample population, eventually they can actually build a profile to some extent of that sample, even though it's still anonymous. And the question is, that information, can they do anything they want with it? Can they resell them to another party, or there isn't much value in that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil. There's another angle there as well, as how do we make sure that there's only one person has uploaded one genome and they're not, genome farming themselves and have 50 different versions of their genomes to make money, which you can do, and it's just matching on genomes and things like that. But it's a great question, and that's what we're trying to do with, to make sure that we're not giving away too much information at the get-go, right? So starting with the most secure, starting with the simple queries, and allowing things like understanding how people are requeried is a really important one, because, as you say, we don't want them building up profiles, but at the same time, myself and Aldo went over to Genomics Medicine Island, and they had a problem that was, they got all this consent. They're sequencing 60,000 genomes in Ireland, which is the birth rate of Irish citizens per year. And it's a private company working in a public healthcare system. And so they were on the front of the Irish Times a couple of times saying that they were breaking privacy laws. So they changed the law. So then all of that data they've got is useless, and they can't go back to the people and ask them to reconsent. So even this idea of repeat consent is novel. And so there's a few different things that need to be thought through, and that is why we started very focused on the most secure side of things, and it's going to be releasing over time to a point closer to where we are now.
Great. So two very quick questions, if I may. How do you increase user base here? Because as you say, outside the US, people are just not used to really getting their genome sequenced. So given you guys are not based there, then there isn't much of a marketing effort, I assume, yet. Like, what's a bit the strategy to increase your user base exponentially? 23andMe has about 12 million customers worldwide. Like, how do you bridge that gap? So that's question number
Can I
one.
step in first,
Yeah.
Mark? Sorry, go ahead. Thanks for that question,
Go ahead,
Phil.
go
So, as indicated before, we basically have two tracks to grow our system in our database. So on one hand, there's the B2C end, whereby we talk to individuals, and as you say, we market to individuals, we educate them on sequencing their genome and how important it is around the security and the privacy and all the kind of the advantages Genomes.io would have, as opposed to other direct-to-consumer genetic companies out there. And on the other hand, there's our B2B avenue, whereby, as Mark indicated before, we work with lots of genomic sequencing initiatives, rare disease charities or research organizations who also have a need to sequence genomic data at scale. So the entire logistics process of getting the data sequenced properly in a private manner, in a secure manner for an organization who's not at all an expert in this but still needs it, that's quite a logistical task. And we're happy to say that we're already signing up contracts with partners who basically say, well, we have 2,000 people who would like to have their genome sequenced. Can we do that with you? Here's another 2,000 there. So in Armenia and Australia, where we've already signed contracts, but there are more in the pipeline coming. Every kind of organization we're talking to are already in the thousands as well, and they basically would like to, we take away the logistical pain for them, but they also know that if they work with us, it is delivered in a secure way that really fits into how to deal with genomic data in the future, which is why they like us and why they want to partner with us. So it's not only kind of us, trying to get the attention of the individual consumer. It's also being clever with our B2B marketing strategy, or towards governments or non-government organizations, rare disease charities, research organizations, universities, whoever has a need on that specific level.
Not sure if you consider it a competitor, just to have a
Kind of cutting in and out there a bit for me. I don't know if you guys got any of that.
Yeah,
I'll just repeat the question.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better. Go ahead. Something about competition?
Yeah, no. So basically, there's another token called Gene Bank token, which I wanted to query with you guys if you consider them a competitor to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I can talk to that. There's a couple of ones that are doing similar things. Nobody is going with the individual vault control. Some people are doing the selling of your data or the brokeraging of your data, and so there's a few different aspects there. I'd say we are the only ones who are focused on the individual and the sovereignty of your data within a vault. And I think that is the way that will win ultimately, because that's the way that scales ultimately. If every time you need, there's a good example of things like, yes, we will work with anyone. 23andMe wanted to work with us and abided by the equitable rules. We have set ourselves up for data sovereignty, so you can't mess with that, right? But if they're open to working in a way with that and putting genomes in vaults, then that's a better situation for everybody. I think there's a good example of things like breast cancer screening in North America, where 80,000 women have had this breast cancer screen. It's a commercial company that's paid for by your insurance to do this test, right? And so what they do is they come and say, well, we need clinical grade whole genome sequencing, so we're going to sequence your genome at a cost of X amount of dollars, and then we're going to run this query on it. In the future, they can just say, you've got your genome on your vault? Okay, here's our app. Run that. And they'll have higher profit margins as a commercial company for lower cost of goods sold, which means that the insurance company pays less money and everybody benefits, right? So, there's a few different models in here, but we're the only ones who are focused on secure at the point of the individual and then applying the layers on top of that which, as I say, is just magnified by the DeFi passive income situation and the Web3 technologies that allow you to have this multi-sig, multi-control effort.
Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome. Okay, wicked deal. Yeah, thank you very much for coming up and asking those questions. Appreciate everybody that comes up and brings in questions here from the AMA text questions as well. Just maybe we can talk about, I see you guys are responding to Truda's question there about with high price volatility, why would pharmaceutical companies want to purchase whole gene to pay users? Won't it be easier to denominate payments in stable coin? Maybe if you guys want to just expand on that here for the audio as well.
Yep. So we did think about stable coins. There's a few. There's definitely an option to migrate to that at some point or to peg it in some way. I think for the terms of, it's a big problem. We're trying to solve it in a way that makes sense for everybody involved around the table. And so this is also, as I mentioned, 30% of the available total market cap, fixed market cap of Gene Token is available today for less than $5 million. And it's a deflationary token. So we're trying to incentivize them to get in early so they get more bang for their buck. And if you have just a flat fee, $100 each time, then it's harder to incentivize pharmaceutical companies to get on board early. But if they think that the value of the organization as a whole, the DAO as a whole, is going to go up, then the value of Gene is going to go up, then they get a double compounding, more bang for their buck, because the thing that they paid $1 million for is now worth $5 million. And so instead of offering people $10 a query, they can offer people $50 a query for essentially the same amount of money.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, again, if we do have any other questions, please bring them in through AMA text questions or come on up here. But yeah, we've been into this one for a minute here, so we could probably start looking to wrap up. But I do want to get to anybody's questions if needed here. Does each query require an on-chain transaction? If so, how is privacy protected? Also, who pays the gas costs, especially if this is on L1, if on mainnet? You guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, again, the auditability and the logs will be sent to the mainnet. Well, the mainnet at this point, and so there's a little cost there, but it's not every transaction requires a mainnet transaction. So that is okay at this point. Obviously, if we're sending around tokens at great rates, because that will require a transaction, then we built it on Ethereum because we love Ethereum. We're Ethereum fanboys. But we are, and in the DAO, there's big conversation on this right now. I think Polygon makes sense to be the next, to be the workflow that actually runs it. People talk about Optimism or Arbitrum being the ones to go with, or some people are very vocal about Phantom. But if you do have a strong opinion on this, or you can help us build it out on one of these systems, then we'd love to hear from you. That's the next step for us, is what we're looking at, right? Scaling on that level.
What about the Cardano people? Have they been reaching out to you? Oh, we just have laughter.
No
comment. All right. Cool. Yeah, and then I guess just as regards to just like you're with Sushi and the future with Sushi and you guys, obviously launching through MISO. The auction is on for another 6 days and 18 hours. There is 85% of your ETH remaining. We've raised 145. We've already raised, I think, like almost 15.
149.
149. Why am I? I need to update, I guess, here. Just refreshing now to check it out here. Yeah, 149. Wow. When I think we've raised over 20 ETH since this started. When I first checked before we got here, I thought it was 128. So regardless, from checkpoint this morning to now has been 20 ETH. So that's great to see. Good work, everyone. And I guess just for the future with you guys and Sushi, how do you see us helping you guys scale, expand, and grow into being the project you guys want to be?
we've loved working with the team so far. Amanda and everyone in the MISO organization has really helped us along. They've created some sick visuals. There's a great video that they made for us this morning that I wanted to buy as an NFT. So look out for that one. But yeah, we're really excited for what the future holds. Obviously, the pools will be launching on liquidity pools on Sushi at the end of the both for Gene and Gnome at the end of the for staking at the end of the sale, and we're looking forward to exploring new ways to partner in the DeFi space. I think the Trident 80/20 pools is something we're definitely looking at going forward. So, yeah, we have the NFT project coming out. I believe Show You's coming tomorrow, right? So it'd be cool. It'd be cool to get involved on that as well. But yeah, any ways in which we can partner with Sushi going forward has been fantastic so far. Also working with Ether cards on the NFT stuff as well. So it's a good little community. So thank you.
Awesome, awesome, good to hear. And yeah, that video there with telepop music, I think, in the background, right?
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, I love that track. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. I guess it's an old one now. To me, it's like still new music, but it's that's a good track. So beauty. Anybody else? If you've got questions, comments, concerns, come on up here. We've been in. This has been wow. We're at an hour and a half now. We did have a couple of hiccups there throughout the call, so I do appreciate everyone sticking through with that. And apologies to everybody in the recording on this, but Discord has been a bit of a bear today. Yeah. Anybody else?
You guys got some. It's pretty interesting to hear about. I like the self-custody aspect that you got going.
It is, Zach. Yeah, it's the focus. It's the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone for listening and attending and all your questions. Much appreciated.
Someone asked about the staking rewards. Maybe Mark can go into that, the staking rewards formula.
Yep, the two pools that will be live on Sushi at the end of the sale will be Gene ETH and Gnome ETH. Of course, you stake Gene ETH LP, you get Gnome. You stake Gnome ETH LP, you get Gene. And the target for live is a 50% of circulating supply LP. We'll be aiming for 100% APR in order to get people who are committed to the project and incentivized into the project to become the Gnome holders, to become the governance people going forward. So skin in the game. That's what it's all about.
All right. Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, as we wrap up here, let's, if you guys don't mind, let's drop any webs and social, all that. Where do we find you guys' website and, yeah, any other socials that you guys are mainly a part of?
Yeah, we are genomes.io is the domain name. Genomes.eth, genomesdao.eth, if you want to track us. And Discord is discord.gg/genomes. And that's the best places to find us. That's where we spend our days.
Wonderful.
Oh, and there's a sale on MISO right now at bit.ly/genomes DAO. Or just go to miso.sushi.com and we're on the homepage.
Perfect. And if you look in the AMA text questions for anybody that's in the call right now, yeah, we've got Zappuccini has listed the MISO auction, and there's your website just below it, along with the Discord link for that. So yeah, okay. Appreciate you guys coming out. I don't know, anything else?
Just a big thank you to you, Tangle.
Hey.
Thank you.
Hey, happy to have you guys. Happy to have you guys.
Thanks for that. Thanks for everybody for listening along. Please join the Discord and ask us questions. We're happy to answer any queries that you have. Thanks a lot for everybody for getting involved so far. It's been a great day.
Yeah, perfect. And just a reminder that anybody that is in the call here for the past, if you've been in for 10, 15 minutes, you should be tracked by the POAP bot, and just stick around. We'll issue those just after we wrap up here. But make sure you have your DMs open from the server, or just DMs open in general. Otherwise, you will not get the POAP for being here. So yeah, we'll issue that out just after this. And of course, this has been recorded and will be uploaded to the Sushi official channel right after this. So keep an eye out if you wanted to catch back or wanted to follow up on this call or share it with some friends. And of course, follow me on Twitter, 0xtangle, and of course, stay up to date with everything on through Sesh in the calendar channel in the Discord server, and we do have I'm trying to do the events right at the very, very top of the Discord channel as well, so you can get notifications in a couple different ways. But thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it, and good luck. Good luck. Sounds cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.